Welcome back to Triggered AF, the podcast with your hosts, Dani and Alechia.
Hey, y'all.
Today, we just have an amazing conversation ready to go for you guys. I just want to dive right in. We thought this conversation was perfectly timed because as a lot of people re-enter the workforce, I'm sure many of us are going to be doing jobs we didn't do before, or wherever you used to work is not an option anymore. So you may find yourself dealing with rejection for the first time in years, right?
Yeah.
So we have an amazing actress, entrepreneur, creator. I mean, she's all the things. I mean, above all those things, she's a very good friend. And we brought her on because she, I feel like, has done such a good job with kind of mastering the art of rejection and how to overcome it and how to think about it. And the way she talks about how she reframes rejection to kind of propel her and fuel her, I just thought would be so awesome.
Absolutely.
To just kind of share that with our audience, like with a lot of people experiencing so many changes. So please welcome Olga.
Hey.
Hi. And there's one thing too that I'm super excited about for this conversation is because rejection isn't just in your professional life. With so many changes as far as dating goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, rejection, it abounds. And so you're either going to have to get real comfortable with it, or you're going to be stagnant. You know, it's the thing.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited. I watched all the previous episodes that you guys shot. I think you're doing an incredibly brilliant job. I love
you.
So excited about this one.
Yes. So I just want to dive right in because we don't want to take up your whole time, your whole day here. And we tend to go over our podcast episodes, Alechia. So
I call Dani. I say it's Dani's fault.
So what do you feel like is your earliest memory of feeling rejected?
Okay, I just add to what you said earlier, Dani and Alechia both. I think not only does rejection have to do with so many areas in our life, I think I discovered for myself personally that rejection has different shapes and forms, including your internal rejection of things, which to me has been quite a strong force at some point, and something that actually has become my greatest motivation to change my life so dramatically in so many aspects, in so many ways. And I'll dive into that a bit later. So I think rejection kind of is known to be an external thing, but I think the more you look inside yourself as a part of your self-development process, you do face your self-rejection at some point, be it rejection of certain things you do, certain things you have accustomed to, be dealing with every day. And at some point you got to choose which one is sort of a greater motivator for you to finally make a change in your life. Is it external rejection of you per se by the people around you?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's your self-rejection of the things that you are or you do as Olga, basically like looking in the mirror and facing that rejection of certain things that you do to yourself.
Yeah.
I do like that. And I never thought of it that way. That you too have the power to reject, and many people do. Like when I started my transformation in terms of how I was going to feed myself and my family, I started to reject a lot of the things that just didn't work. Like a lot of the prepackaged, and it's no disrespect to anyone who still eats it. However, for my health, I started to reject a lot of the things that no longer worked. Instead of, getting the huge strawberry that was, almost the size of my head, I started to go with the organic strawberries, even though they were most times smaller. It mattered that I decided to reject the notion that I had to eat TV dinners or McDonald's because I was traveling, or Burger King because of, and again, no disrespect to those brands, but because of some of the things that they cook their food in. And even now, if I try to eat it, like last week, I told myself I was going to live my best life, and I ate all the things I know I'm not supposed to. I had food poisoning. because my body now rejects whether it's intentional or not, it rejects what it knows is not supposed to go inside of me. And I was so proud of my body, heartbroken because I was so sick, but proud, like, yes, you are sticking with it.
Right. So yeah, back to Dani's question, my first memory of the first rejection in my life, I don't remember the exact situation or moment. I would just say, and I hope it will answer your question somehow. I think the environment I was born in and the place where I had to grow up, just because I was born so far, and it was sort of one of the least developed countries back in the days. It was the Soviet Union country. Like, I mean, it was developed in its own bubble. But now, living and having experienced life outside the bubble, you can kind of see how behind everything was. To live in an environment like that, you had no option, you had no luxury to not find a way how to deal with rejection per se. So I can't remember, basically, because that was a fight. Like, if you wanted to have a better life, you had to prepare yourself at a very early age that you would have to fight. You would have to go against the norms, the rule, the morale that the society would impose. So that's probably why I don't remember, or like, even if it happened, I wouldn't like note it in my diary as something that, oh my God, I need to remember that moment that traumatized me, because I knew it would happen. So all I had to do was to prepare myself for that moment.
Absolutely.
I can't remember when. I just knew even if it happened, I would have just had to focus on finding the solution, how to deal with it.
Yeah, that's so interesting how culturally we view it differently, or, you know, like in one culture, there's more like a preparedness for it. I want to say in most cultures, there is no method to prepare or anticipation of it, even though you know it's inevitable that you will deal with rejection. For some reason, I feel that I was very ill prepared for it, even though you experienced it so much. Alechia, what would you say was your earliest memory of rejection? Because I'm gonna guarantee you, Olga, that we both have like a specific thing that we can remember.
Oh yeah, I have a very specific thing, and I sometimes feel so bad about sharing my story because it's just so trauma filled, and I'm like, sometimes I get exhausted sharing it. But I believe I was 8. And it was after my mother had lost her child. And so she had mentally checked out. She wasn't available as you are when you're fully present. And so I peed in the bed. Don't laugh at me, guys. But I peed in the bed like for a really unnatural length of time for a child. And so because of that, we didn't always have like running water in our house. And because I also peed in the bed, it means sometimes I would wear clothes that weren't clean, that had a stench to them. So it overall just wasn't a good situation. But I had friends who were in my church who I really, really wanted to be, you know, friends with. I wanted to be like all the other kids, even though we had so many more pressures in my home. And so there was a girl who I really wanted to, you know, spend the night at her house. And I had told my body, like, listen, we are not going to, you know, go to sleep and pee on this lady's stuff because she is going to, you know, curse me out. She didn't curse, but I felt like she would have started cursing just to curse me out. And so she had told her daughter that her daughter wasn't allowed to have me over because I was the stinky kid.
Oh, that's sad.
I told you it's, and I don't think she intentionally meant harm. And I really don't think she meant for her daughter to come back and tell me exactly what she said.
Right.
But it hurt so bad. And I unfortunately carried that with me, that who I was not ever going to be okay, because at that time we only went deeper and deeper into poverty. You know, after my mother's child died. So in my mind, I was always going to not be accepted because I was poor, even though I was afforded the opportunity to go to a private Christian school. So that was my my first memory. Like I would always be an outcast. I would always be an outsider. And I would just have to figure out how to be okay in front of people and then cry once I got home.
Yeah, I asked that question because I do believe that a lot of the relationship you end up having with rejection as you get older starts with whatever your introduction to rejection was as a child and how you overcame it or how you were taught to deal with rejection as a child. My earliest memory of rejection actually came from my sister, my older sister. We're 7 years apart. And she would always, I was a super affectionate child and very touchy and lovey. And everyone in my family, especially my mom, my dad, everybody was very receiving of that affection and love, except my sister. Like I would come and try to hug her and kiss her, and she would like push me off. If I kissed her, she'd wipe her face. Like it was like such a like it's like I was repulsive to her. Like I remember feeling like, God, am I gross to you? But it was only her, thank God, that I had so much other love and affection to drown out her rejection. But I remember just the feeling I would feel whenever I would try to hug her or kiss her, and she would kind of shun me or tell me that I smell like outside or just whatever she would big mean sisters say, like, you know. And I remember that feeling that she would, you know, kind of make me feel whenever I would feel. And I'm like 7, 8, 9, I mean, to forever. And to this day, I don't hug my sister.
Wow.
I do not hug her. I do not kiss her. We are not affectionate at all. And later on, I learned that the reason why she wasn't as affectionate is because she is really tall. She's like 5'10". She's a little heavier. She said that she always felt like she would like crush people, or like she always felt like she would like she was too big to get the affection, right? So it's interesting how like she rejected me because of her own feelings of rejection, right? Yeah. Or anticipated rejection. And it kind of now creates this dynamic, even all these 30 years later, we still have a hard time kind of getting into a space of affection with each other. Even though we're close, the physical affection, not there.
Wow. I don't even, that's heartbreaking because I get it. And without therapy,
there's you, right? That's childhood. Like you're an adult now. So that's why I just feel like it's so interesting. Do you guys feel like rejection, especially you, Olga, do you feel like rejection can be a good thing?
Oh, to me, I would say I love rejection.
That's why I was like, you guys got to hear this because I've heard her say that before, and I was like, what?
I love pain. No, honestly, I think I am so grateful. I don't know what happened to me in the past. Maybe that's one of my previous lives, and that's like the memory of that, the feeling of that probably. But I have to say, rejection is a great trigger for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that encourages me to think different, to act different, to step out of my comfort zone. It's almost like it's such a great challenge. Like the more rejected I am, the more motivated I feel to fucking go. And I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
Oh yes, yes. We curse in these parts. You're totally fine.
To go and do better. Yeah. And it took me years to understand whether that was sort of coming from the place of insecurity, me trying to prove something to somebody else, which I believe it was. It used to be, especially during a certain age when we're most vulnerable, when you're going through this hormonal change in your body, and like the opinion of your peers is so important, more than yours. I don't know if you guys come from that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When suddenly some stupid girlfriend's idea sounds so brilliant, and you know it's not brilliant, but you're like, yeah, she's in the tribe, probably she's right. But then I think over time, because I kept looking at, okay, but how do I really feel about it? Like, what is this really that I think about it?
Yeah.
With age, I realized it has become something that drives me to prove something to myself. So the more rejection I receive from outside, the more stimulus the better motivation it gives me to do something, find those internal resources to actually go and either show that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Or say, fuck it, actually I don't need it. Because I give it another thought and I realized you're right. It's not me being rejected. It's something that I was not supposed to do even.
Yeah. So see, that's how I see rejection. I can't say I necessarily get excited about it. So, I'm not on your level just yet.
In the moment, girl, trust me. I'm like, give me my bazooka. Trust me. 2 minutes only. And then the emotion is gone. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah. I give myself honestly 24 hours. But what I see it as, so I gotta take a day, because sometimes those rejections, they cut deep. However, the reason I am so okay with rejection now is because I don't see it as rejection. I use the word redirection, because you don't want everybody pouring into your pot. Because if you have 10 people who pour into your pot and the meal doesn't come out right, kind of like too many chefs in the kitchen, I can't pinpoint who's what spoiled the pot. So I'm not supposed to, be connected to everything or have everything. But what rejection does, in my opinion, at least, it redirects me to where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And sometimes that rejection, it's not no, it's just not now. To me, no stands for next opportunity. Like, okay, bet, what are we doing now? Like, this wasn't it. This isn't the avenue, but maybe we're supposed to go down this one. Like, what's next, And so with you, and I do like the fact that you're like, you do get excited about it, because it's like, okay, bet, what's next? And as an actress, I am positive you do deal with a lot of rejection. I feel like it's one of the most rejectable industries you could ever get into. So what's your process of how do you deal with it once you get rejected? Because for me, I take a good 24 hours depending on how bad or how much I wanted it. When I was trying to enter back into corporate America, because I was like, man, fuck this entrepreneurship shit. It's too much for my soul. And so I was entering back in, and it was going great. I was literally on the last round. And then I guess they Googled me and they saw all the other things that I did. And nothing came to me to see if I can push some stuff to page 3 or 4. So that they would, see that I was really excited about the position. And after going through all the rounds and all the ups and downs, they were like, we decided to go with someone who we felt, wasn't as active, or who, we felt would give the role the attention it deserved. And I was offended and so crushed. So I gave myself 24 hours and still felt away after those 24 hours. But what's your process?
Well, I have to say, though, I'm still working on it, because you touch upon the business side of it, Alechia, and that how you try to transition from entrepreneurship to corporate and sort of pseudo guaranteed happiness, which is not the case, because I actually transitioned. It was the opposite process. For me. I spent so many years in corporate world, and then I transitioned to entrepreneurship. So with that, I kind of found the ways to explain to myself and find a way how to use rejection as power when it comes to acting, because it has to do with the non-tangible things, right? Because it's storytelling. Yeah. It's nothing that you can grab and say, okay, this is right, because it's either you make somebody feel something or not. It's very black and white, right? It's very extreme. And therefore, it's either they love you or they don't want to see you again. That is more emotional. That's something that you can't touch and feel and kind of literally mold and package and make better. And you cannot rationalize it. You cannot go and say, this is my business case. That's why it works. That's why it's great. You can't reject it, right?
Yeah.
I'm still working on it, but I think I found the answer once. And trust me, it was a very painful process, especially in the beginning. When you go to a casting, you already... Trust me, to enter that room full of people that basically don't give a damn about you in a nutshell, right? You're one of the 1,000 people that they see on a day. Everyone driven, or most people driven by the same ambition. You're just another phase. While for you, it's like, it's now or never.
Yeah.
And then you walk in, you think you did your great, not always, but okay, you did your best.
Yeah.
And then you don't hear back. I stopped worrying about it. I stopped seeing it as it stopped being a painful thing to me when I said to myself, I don't go there for approval. Their yes or no is not a valuation of my talent. And most importantly, it's not whether or not they're going to say yes or no. It's not going to stop me from loving what I do. I don't do it to be accepted, to be loved. I don't do this to be the best in the world. I do because that's what I love. So will the fact that no one loves David stop me from loving him? No. Will the majority of people saying we don't want women to become mothers from now on stop me from wanting to be a mother? No. To me, that's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, I really do like that. It's asking and answering a question inside of yourself where it's, hey, this is another opportunity or another chance that I have to show what I've got and who I am, and whether or not who I am works for them in no way means that who I am is now invalidated.
Exactly. That's the word. It's not the validation of who I am, of what I love, and whether I have the right to have this passion and do it.
I really, really like that.
Because that's like when they say yes, it doesn't flatter me. I don't feel no. And yes, there are a lot of people around me, especially in this industry, that become arrogant and like, you know, you've done 2 roles somewhere, extra roles on a couple of projects, and you have credits on IMDb page, and suddenly they act like they're stars. I feel sorry. I feel I think I find it petty, because to me it's they look for validation. I don't look for validation. That's it. I just love doing it. So if you don't like it, don't like me.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one too. Looking for validation is many times where people veer off the path, because if you're always looking for someone else to give you a big green star or say, oh yeah, you did it, then you don't really tap into, but what do you actually like? And what do you love? And what excites you? Because you're always looking back like, oh, was I good? Did I do a great job? So I can definitely see how that would affect things. Always looking for the validation.
Yeah, for sure. And even especially when it comes to, like Olga, you were saying, even if somebody praises you, you still don't really take that too much to heart either. I think it's Gary V that talks a lot about that. Where he's where they're just like, they should kind of weigh this, like, it's great, thank you, but it shouldn't be like, okay, now that this person said that means that I am this thing. It should just be like, okay, thank you. And the same thing, you have something that you say, okay, thank you. And either way, I'm not affected. Yeah. You know, and I definitely try to adapt that even more. The older I get, I know growing up, it was like really important for me to seek validation and want to hear the compliments and want to feel like people liked me. And I think on some level, we all want to be liked, right? We all want to be seen and heard, want to feel accepted. But I do think there's something really powerful in just being completely okay with how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're self-aware enough that you're not trying to harm other people and you're conscious of the harm you may cause others. Because I think sometimes that line gets blurry where it's like, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks, so I'm an asshole. It's like, it's like, no, you gotta care a little bit, just like a little bit, like a little dose of care of how you affect others, right? But I loved that. For me, has been a nugget that has helped me to kind of overcome that need for validation. It's just like the compliments and the insults are kind of neck and neck.
Same. Yeah.
You know, and I think to me, like I learned so much also from David, because he's like on a completely different level from me. He's like so far higher above on in terms of like self-validation, self-identification, how do you like what it is to feel good about yourself and stuff. So he's the first one who actually brought this thought to me, and he said, you know, I'm that point in my life when even compliments don't, like, I don't care about compliments, because he said, it's sort of compliment is validation. It's someone's opinion about you, right? Be it good or bad. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you don't care? He's like, no, I want to be at that level of completeness. I'm feeling complete about myself, that even when people tell me something good, it genuinely doesn't do anything to me. And in my case, it was a different process, because I had to do so many things seeking for validation. I hurt myself so much. My self-esteem was so low at a certain point in my life that I couldn't find the answer why. Because on the outside it seemed like, and it looked like everything was fine. I was doing great.
Yeah.
Successful. She's done this and that. She's the youngest top manager in the company, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't feel fine inside. And then I realized, and speaking of rejection and self-rejection, my nature rejected that validation, because deep inside, I knew I was achieving those results in business because I was trying to prove to somebody, because I was trying to find that acceptance or whatever. Slap on my shoulders from the fucking CEO, you did great. Not because I actually wanted it so much. I didn't want to drive that and be responsible for that budget, for God's sake, but you gave me enough to prove that I deserved it. You know, like, yes, it was the right decision. So because it hurt me so much and brought me so down within myself, I had to find a way how to stop caring about whether or not I'm being validated in the way I would expect it to be. So.
Yeah, that's a really big one. And that's something that I think so many people do, in that they go after, whether it's the project, like I used to go after certain projects that I didn't really want to do, but that I knew looked good. And so I did it. And it's like, yes, you got the result that you wanted, but you still feel like crap because your very nature is rejecting it, because it's not really what you wanted anyway. Just like kind of my body rejected the food and I got food poisoning. It's not really what I wanted. I prefer healthier options. To me, they taste better. They make me feel better. Like, it energizes me. But I accepted something that I knew I didn't ultimately want, just to like, oh yeah, I'll do it, I'll whatever. And so it goes back to what you were saying, in that you've got to get to the point to where you are so self-actualized that you are super clear. This works, this doesn't. You telling me I did good, you telling me I did bad, either way, I'm good.
Right.
Either way. That's a really powerful lesson to learn too. Like, pay close attention to what your body rejects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because your body is always kind of trying to guide you. Because even when I was pregnant, I would feel myself rejecting. My body would reject certain things. And there's this book that I read throughout my pregnancy that was like, that kind of helps you with nutrition as far as when you're eating. And there's like a whole thing where, when back in the day, before all the sciences and discoveries, where they believed that the body would reject certain things during pregnancy to protect the baby without you even really realizing it. So there are like certain foods that, for whatever reason, still pregnant women just don't want, especially at the first trimester, because of the risk of that those foods may pose to the baby. So yeah, I love that. I was going to say that, Alechia. It's like, just pay attention to what your body rejects, what your mind, what your soul feels like it's rejecting. But I think a lot of the reasons why it's hard to kind of differentiate is because fear oftentimes comes in to the body. And once there's fear in the body, you're not as sensitive to what's actually happening. And you may be rejecting something, but then there's fear. So then you end up maybe accepting it or taking it in anyways because of fear of the rejection of others, or fear of not being accepted, or fear of looking a certain way or being a certain way. Olga, what kind of advice or what do you say to people who are literally like, and I'm talking about, there are people that like rejection, the fear of rejection is debilitating. Like they literally cannot function. They can't do the task. They will not go to the audition, right? Because they would just rather not hear no than to be rejected. So what do you kind of say to people that are that afraid of rejection?
That is, it's so true, Dani. And I can say fear per se, right? It's scary. It's scary. We all have fears. I have fears. I still have fears. Not necessarily fear of rejection. So I can still relate to that. But I think, and again, it's hard for me to say now, this is my advice to you guys, because it depends on what stage in life you are, each individual is. Because obviously me saying it even to myself when I'm 20 would sound like a lot of BS and something that, it's easy to say when you're almost 40, you know what I mean? But still, I think, first of all, answer to yourself how much you really want it. Outside with the, like, do you really want it? Yeah. And if you really want it, why? To me, and that's probably also, Alechia, you probably echo that, it's kind of like the marketing shit that you always have to find the answer to the why question. Why? But you know what? I use that a lot. I use that lettering of the why questions until I go to the core essence of the reason. Ask yourself why. If you want to tap into this industry, in particular acting, and you want to do that because you want to be famous, don't do it. Don't do it. First of all, fame is a relative thing. It's a relative measurement thing. It's timely thing. It's not going to last forever. If you do it because there's a lot for you to say, and this is the form you're going to tell your story okay, you can give it a shot. But if you want it a lot, if there is a deeper reason than just I want to be popular, famous, whatever, you want to give it a try. But I'm always a very rational person when it comes to how you do it and how you equip yourself to kind of like making sure you can do it. You have to work and train yourself. Be honest with yourself. If you want to go to a casting, you're not prepared, you're gonna fail. Regardless of how much you want and why you want it.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, rejection can only work, and you can overcome the fear of rejection if you're clear about why you want to do this. You are confident enough in explaining to yourself and understanding yourself that this is a process that takes time. Hence, you have to be patient and you have to work hard. I'm not the one who will tell you, if you believe in something, it will happen, period. No, it will happen if you work hard. If you go to an audition and you know there's going to be a bunch of other actors, talented people, you cannot just go and hope. Because I see a lot of actors saying, well, I just went there and I thought, sometimes they discover talent and they just fall in love with them because they look like, I don't know, their first love. And then I'm like, is that your business plan? Is that how you're going to go prove that you have your competitive advantage? Hoping to be lucky on that day, hoping. That's the only thing. I think preparation helps deal with fear. That's at least how I work.
Yeah, that confidence. Great. It makes you confident.
So basically, be sure about what you want. Be sure that you want it. Be sure about why you want it. But you have to be prepared, meaning you have to work. You have to work hard.
Yeah, that advice is timely because it is, identifying like what is your why? And people say it all the time, well, what's your why? What's your why? And it does sound cliche, but figuring out the why piece it allows you to tap into what will eventually become what motivates you, right? It's a motivator to where when you do hear no, and when you do get put into a situation to where, okay, there is a possibility that I won't get what I had hoped for, or that I won't be able to, align with what I want. Even if I hear no on B Street, that I'm still willing to keep going because there's an internal something in me. Like Jay-Z says it all the time, and I'm always quoting him because I just adore how he was able to literally shift his mindset to go from a corner boy selling poison to a billionaire.
Yeah.
Like it's beyond, in that you really can build whatever you want, because he said it, he was like, the genius thing that we did was not give up. And so when you're clear on your why, then there's this internal driver that is beyond. The no doesn't mean no, never. It means next opportunity, figure out another way, figure out another path to still achieve what it is that you want. And so I would love to hear from you. Like, what are some of maybe like the exercises you do mentally, like to prepare yourself before you get ready for like an audition or like a potential experience where you may have the possibility of hearing no? Like, is there something you do? Like, do you reconnect with your why? Like, what is it that you do? What's your thing?
So I'm clear. First of all, I'm clear about the why, the big why, right? Why I decided one day to give up on my career in business and just dedicate myself into acting, right? That's just this is my passion. This is what I will keep doing anyway, regardless, right? In any shape or form, be it a small theater or hopefully one of the new TV shows on a big streaming network. To me, I always prepare myself to hear no. Frankly, I know there is a different school of thought that says just always think positive. Yes, while I think positive in general, practically speaking, I always prepare myself driving up to the next casting or audition or submitting myself tape that I might hear a no. When you prepare to hear no, I sort of kind of like list number of things that might potentially be the reasoning for that no. Because frankly, this industry, while it's quite a spontaneous thing and a decision-making process, it does happen in reality that you just walk into the room and suddenly they see something in you, and sometimes they can't even explain. Sometimes you walk into the room and you're spot on physically, visually, and you even did great, but something doesn't click. And they go with someone else who probably wasn't even supposed to be considered in the first place. So that's why the number of things or potential reasons why no is there. You can't assume someone was in a bad mood. They were not clear about what they were looking for. Whatever that reasoning is, I also do a lot of just pure technical preparation steps, meaning you learn the lines, you're making sure that you look like the character they're looking for. You are as genuine as you possibly can be, because that's also, in acting in particular, that's one of the primary reasons why they often say no. They see fake. You walk in, you try to be nice. You sense it like that. I was on the other side of the camera in my previous life when I was a client looking for actors for my commercials, for instance. You sense it right away. And even the girl looks exactly what I was looking for. She walks in with a fake smile and she says hi to everyone, shakes hands. It's just, I can't trust my project in your hands just because you're just so fake. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of technical preparation things. Literally, making sure I'm all prepared. I have my resume, I have my headshots, I have a pair of spare shoes in my car always. I have 2 sets of clothes in case they want to see me in my bikini set or in my nightgown, for example. Yeah. That's pure technical. On the emotional side of it, or like more of like a non-tangible thing, I think of the possible reasons why I would hear no. and I prepare myself for that. That said, doesn't mean that when I walk in, I don't walk in like I'm already the star that they were looking for. But
so it's a delicate balance. And something that you said also made me feel like it could apply to relationships. Like when you said, when you've been on the other side and you can tell when someone walks in and they're fake.
yeah.
I feel like that applies like across the board, where whenever you're not showing up as yourself, even if you think you're fooling everybody, it's like when you're drunk and you don't realize that you're drunk, or you think no one else realizes that you're drunk, and you're just like, okay, I'm holding it together. I got this. I'm standing up. And you don't realize that everyone else sees you. I think that's something just across the board that it rings so true, that to say you're always kind of auditioning in life. Like life is just like a big, long, like multiple stage audition of sorts, right? And if you're not showing up as yourself, you're actually increasing the chances of you being rejected. Sometimes we feel like the more that we're not ourselves is the more we'll be accepted. But it's actually the opposite, because people can tell when you're being disingenuous, when you're not being yourself, when you're trying to put on and be somebody that you're not. So that resonated with me, where it's like, that really is just saying, if you want to reduce the chances of you being rejected, like if you want to just give yourself a 10% advantage, it's by being yourself.
Yeah. And I think as easy as it sounds, of course, just being nervous, which I feel all the time. Still, right? I can be as prepared as I want to be, right? I do my 2-minute meditation in the car every time I go to an audition. There's just a short thing that I learned from one of the casting directors. It was helpful, and actually it works. If you want girls, I'll share with you. It's literally just four answers that you give to 4 questions.
Yes.
It does help you feel more grounded.
Okay, what are those 4? I want to learn.
Those 4 is basically all you need to do is you need to stand on your feet, because you have to be grounded. You can be sitting, but like your feet have to be totally like flat on the floor.
Okay.
Close eyes. You just breathe, and first question you ask, what am I?
What am I?
And right now I feel like I am love.
Okay.
And whatever comes first, you answer, right?
Okay.
And you say, what I feel. I feel light.
Ooh, okay, I love it. I love this so far.
Right? Okay.
Well, next question, what do I need? Right now, I need patience. For me, for instance. And the final question you ask is, what do I want? I want love.
Interesting. I like that.
I've never done that before.
Those 4 things in, and I don't know what happens. It does help.
It does. I feel
how. Yeah, I can see how.
I feel so. Maybe it was the putting my feet on the floor and closing my eyes or something. I don't know, but I like that. So the first one is, what am I?
What am I? What do I feel?
What do I feel?
What do I feel? What do I want? What do I need?
I like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love.
And I think what's important is that you say that out loud, and then you answer to yourself.
Yeah. And you're grounded because your feet are touching the ground, and at least I was breathing in between them as I was answering it. And so it brings you back to yourself. So even if you're nervous, it allows you to come home to yourself.
Yeah. And I think you kind of go back to answering that question of like who are you? Like, I love who am I? Like, whenever you're okay and you've decided that, and you realize that you're aligning with your purpose, it won't matter what anyone has to say, and you're not seeking validation because you've already done all that for yourself. So I love that. I think that's such a powerful way to kind of just reconnect. And I think it's the disconnect sometimes when we're trying to do things. That gap is filled with everyone's opinions. Like the gap between your lowest self and your highest self is usually just filled with a bunch of bullshit that has nothing to do with you, really. Exactly. But you allow all this energy and all this noise really into your space because you're so disconnected. When you seal that thing shut and I've already decided what's happening and I've already realigned with myself, it's so much harder for the noise to get in. So I feel like that's what that exercise does. It just kind of shuts out the noise. And that's so powerful.
What is good also about it, because obviously you want to do it in a quiet place. You can even do that in a restaurant, which is what I do that, right? Usually go and you pee before the audition, because yeah, it happens sometimes.
Nerves.
Nerves.
Or you like want to wash your hands and like make sure you're not greasy and stuff. To me, it's a conversation with your subconscious. And oftentimes I notice, because I share this exercise with my fellow actors, and one of the girls, she said, Olga, oh my God, I went to this audition. I was just so nervous. And I was thinking, oh my God, I so hope that it's going to be this casting director that I know. And then suddenly when she started asking that question, what do I need? In that moment in time, so her subconscious said, you need air. Mm. And she said it, and she was like, wait a second. Oh, so maybe I just need to breathe. And she was like, I realized I never have time to breathe, just like sit and breathe before I walk into the room. I always just rush into there. So basically air meaning
breathe.
This.
Listen to your body, like what Alechia said.
Speak slower, move slower, don't rush. Because, and I think the way you interpret your answers, again, is your subconscious, is just really being able to hear that. And oftentimes we think we need, or like, I want whatever, success. Usually when it comes to the intimate moment, and to me, casting an audition is an intimate moment with yourself. It's you and your talent or your passion or whatever, your fear, your pain. Oftentimes we do castings that just go back so deeply into something that was so painful that we think we need success and all those trivial things. But no, in reality, you just might need wind. I just want to imagine me standing in the wind and suddenly I feel so good and I feel so calm. So that's what you totally said. It just shuts off all the noise and you finally hear your inner voice.
Yeah, I love that. And I've truly adored this conversation. Just because like Dani was saying earlier, people literally will take rejection and it will debilitate them and cause them to not try or to not do or to not go because they're afraid of getting it wrong or making a mistake or hearing no or what others will say. And Olga, you keep reminding us, go back to your why. What's your reason behind what you want to do?
Yeah.
So my last question is what do you feel has been like the most, or is the most helpful lesson or learning that we can obtain from rejection?
That rejection is not death. It's not the end. Mm-hmm. Rejection is not your ultimate validation point. Rejection is the comma. Rejection is the comma. That's how I always look at it. I'm like, this conversation is not over. Later, or not see you later, but only because I changed my mind and I don't want to.
So I like that. Rejection is the comma.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really love this conversation because I just came to this conclusion. Like, because what is rejection? Yes, it's to me, it's a trigger. It's my greatest encouragement to go and do different and try different. But yeah, essentially it's the comma. It's like this conversation, or like 3 dots at the end of the sentence.
The ellipsis.
Yeah. It's still going on. And there's so many wildly successful people. I know the Beatles have a story where they went to all these different record companies back in the day, and they got rejected over and over and over and over again. They would tell them that they can't sing, that they can't play. I know Kanye West is always talking about how he was being rejected and how they told him all he is a producer. Jay-Z even told him that he couldn't be a rapper, and he still kept pushing. Oprah talks about her rejection stories. I mean, just about every great person has dealt with a great deal of rejection to get. So I love the idea that it's just a comma. It's not the end. It's not death. It's actually fuel. And it's actually something else I saw. I feel like it was on, I don't know where I remember this from. It could be that I came up with it, but I don't like to give myself that much credit. But somewhere in the ethos, it came to me, or I saw it, or whatever, that you have to kind of think of yourself as a jewel. Mm-hmm. And whenever when you think of yourself as some kind of a gem or a jewel, everyone doesn't have an eye for quality, right? So you can be presented to someone and you're a rare gem, but because you don't look like all the other gems, they think you're not worth anything. So sometimes you just have to go where you're valued, where your worth is going to be accepted and seen, you know? So sometimes it's maybe stop putting yourself and obviously not for work, but maybe more so speaking in a relationship sense, maybe not surrounding yourself or putting yourself in situations where people won't see you for who you are or value what you have to offer. Yeah. Sometimes you're being more rejected because you're putting yourself in a space of people that can't see how priceless you are. You know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes that plays into the rejection is, are you going in places? Are you going after things that really don't align with who you are and what you really have to offer? Are you trying to show how expensive you are to someone that's never, you know, it's like, I'm trying to explain how amazing Prime 112. I would say Prime 112. That's not even my favorite restaurant. What's like a super expensive restaurant? Barton G, right here in Miami or Cali. I'm trying to explain to someone how amazing and how worth it is, but they only eat at Applebee's. They're going to be like, oh, that's too expensive. That's ridiculous. I would never pay that much for food. The idea of value is going to change based on someone's experience. So you can't let that person's experience determine how valued or validated you should feel, because they just may not know. It could be that simple. Yeah. Like sometimes it's not even that deep. Sometimes it's just, they don't know any better.
Or they don't like it. And that's okay too. Like,
yeah.
You could be the juiciest, best tasting peach on the face of the planet, and it's still somebody like, I don't like peaches. I prefer apple.
Yeah, everyone is not forever. You can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, you know, again, back to the rejection thing. You know, one of the best actors of time and one of my most favorite actors, Denzel Washington. I love watching interviews with him because this guy, he was rejected for 20 years. When I hear his story, every time I'm like bawling because I can just, I just love, when I see anything great, I'm like, whatever, just because it's great is a rare thing. And he says, I would go to the Broadway theater every freaking day.
Wow.
Every day. And he said, they wouldn't even know me, my face. He's like, I would show up at the door and the bouncer would know who I am, why I'm there for. They would in, but they would almost like label him as the guy who is just gonna be rejected again. And then it's not gonna be a quote thing, but I love what he said. Rejection makes you fall. Now you decide whether you fall back or forward.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I had like goosebumps.
Me too. I was like, damn, that's real.
This is so, because falling per se, right? It's a different subject. Falling is also another to me. Because he's so damn right. You can fall back or forward. So to him, every time waking up in the morning, going there again, knocking on those doors, was falling forward. He's like, yes, motherfuckers are going to fall again. Fall forward and closer to you. And he did it. And then the first time he nailed, it was a breakthrough.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's just, and it's across the same, like we've had, even Alechia, like the conversations that we've had previously, every person that is successful or doing really well in whatever line of work they're doing, are you noticing everyone's kind of saying the same thing? Just like, listen to yourself, trust your own inner voice, and don't give up. Like it really is like, that's the
genius thing.
There's no magic potion or secret sauce, or, you know, it's just like every one of you, Olga, is like saying the same general thing. It's so interesting.
A different way.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. And it's like, God, no matter how many times you hear it, it's still like, wow, that is the truth, because we're often told that we're told so many wrong things, I feel like, all the time. But I think a lot of times we're told that the answers are outside of us. And I know I say this all the time. We're always like, oh, let me go look out there. Let me go talk to this person and see if this person thinks it's okay. And everybody that we've been talking to that obviously is, the best in their field, they're high performers, high value people. They're all saying the same thing, that it's just like, nah, forget what everybody has to say. And listen to yourself. And that is the message. That's how you really, I don't think you can completely just overcome rejection or the fear of it altogether. But I do think that you can buffer yourself and you can prepare yourself, like Olga says, and you can kind of make it so that rejection fuels you instead of debilitate you.
And totally. And Dani, you're so right. When you're saying, yes, like while we, like people, let's say like kind of like have managed to still keep floating, right? I would call myself like successful, because it's never enough. Great is never enough, right? You still want to you still gonna live your own story. You're still gonna have your own experience. And there are people that are just, I don't know, lucky or whatever, were born at the right time and in the right place, and it just happens. Whatever that is, I think rejection is a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
Yes. Just embrace it as a fact that is going to happen, that it is going to happen. That's why when we have our baby, I'm not going to teach my son to just kind of like, obviously I'm going to support my son in whatever idea he has, but I'm also going to say, be prepared. And back to your very first question, maybe that's also partly the reason why to me, rejection is not even something that I have to really see it for a long time on. I just have to just keep moving. My parents prepared me for that. Mm-hmm. In their case, it wasn't their choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was an inevitable consequence of the miserable conditions we're living in. So they almost prepared me for the fight that I would have to take with myself, with continuous things that will not seem possible for a girl that was living in a poor family in the country that was in the box.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying prepare yourself for rejection. I was put in that situation. My parents prepared me. I'm just giving this as the only advice. Just be ready for it. When you're ready, it's not as scared.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true about how it's really just about, just like with anything in life, it's really just all about perspective and how you frame the rejection. And it's like, I love that Denzel quote about falling backwards or forwards. Forwards means that you're going in the right direction, that you're one step closer, and you don't even think of, when you think about falling, you only think about the pain and the hurt and what feels like failure, but it's actually just one step closer to your goal. That is awesome. I definitely needed that nugget. That works for me.
Absolutely.
Watch his interviews. This man is, and I love how practical, how realistic he is, how rational he is, and how talented he is, and how he's just a walking book of how to keep enjoying life and being so fucking great and so humble. Like he's still so humble till these days.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. This conversation has truly like energized me, just in a way to now redefine it. Rejection is the comma, rejection is falling, but you get to choose whether you're falling forward or falling backwards. Like, it's the gems for me. But I want to make sure that we stay connected with you. So where can we find you? Where can we stay connected? We want to make sure we're supporting you as well.
Please, let's stay connected. I'm always there. You can find me on Instagram. I'm such a millennial thing. I'm on Facebook, but I don't know why I'm there. TikTok is not my cup of tea. I can't dance like that.
What's your handle name so we can make sure we're following you?
Okay, the handle name is crazy. It's La Luna 0910.
Okay, and spell La Luna for us.
La Luna, LALUNA 0910.
Awesome sauce. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, for your energy.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing space with us. This was phenomenal. And we will see you guys next week on Triggered AF, the podcast. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, girls.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.